हमारे बीच में उत्तराखंड मुक्त विश्वविद्यालय के माननीय कुलपति श्रीमान ओपीएस नेगी जी जुड़े हुए हैं। मैं दून विश्वविद्यालय परिवार की ओर से माननीय कुलपति महोदय श्रीमान प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर ओपीएस नेगी साहब का हार्दिक स्वागत एवं अभिनंदन करता हूं। दून विश्वविद्यालय परिवार के हमारे परीक्षा वित्त नियंत्रक श्रीमान डीसी लोहानी जी, हमारे कुल सचिव डॉक्टर मंगल सिंह मंद्रवाल जी, उप कुल सचिव श्रीमान नरेंद्र लाल जी हमारे बीच में उपस्थित हैं। आप सभी लोगों का आज के इस फ्राइडे लेक्चर सीरीज के द्वितीय संस्करण में हार्दिक स्वागत और अभिनंदन है। और जैसा मैं जिक्र कर रहा था कि माननीय पूर्व मुख्यमंत्री महोदय के उद्बोधन के पश्चात हमारे बीच में वाइल्ड लाइफ इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ इंडिया के साइंटिस्ट जी डॉक्टर एस सत्य कुमार जी हमारे बीच में हैं। डॉक्टर एस सत्य कुमार जी इज अ conservation biologist working for biodiversity conservation, management and sustainable development in the Himalaya since 1989. As the nodal scientist, he has coordinated national and international research cooperation projects and have worked in multidisciplinary teams for biodiversity assessment, planning and management. तो biodiversity पे, wildlife पे काफी समय से आप काम कर रहे हैं देश और दुनिया में। You have published hundreds of papers in different national, international reviewed journals. He is a member of IUCN SSC specialist groups of Caprine, Bear, Galliforms, World Commission on Protected Areas, and Cultural and Spiritual Values of Protected Areas. He is a recipient of many awards and recognitions for his academic performance, research and conservation efforts, notably इंडियन नेशनल साइंस एकेडमी टीचर्स अवार्ड। इस प्रकार से कई पुरस्कारों से डॉक्टर एस सत्य कुमार जी पुरस्कृत किए जा चुके हैं और हमारा सबका सौभाग्य है कि टुडे ही इज गोइंग टू डिलीवर ऑन कॉम्बैटिंग कोविड-19 इन इंडिया, रोल ऑफ यूनिवर्सिटीज एंड रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूशंस। सो ही विल डिस्कस रोल ऑफ यूनिवर्सिटीज एंड एकेडमिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस। with honor, I would like to invite Dr. S. Satya Kumar ji for his presentation and discussion. Dr. S. Satya Kumar ji.
Thank you, Dr. Purohit ji. I'll first share my presentation.
Yes, sir. Please continue, sir. Your presentation is visible and you are audible, sir. Please continue.
Thank you, Purohit ji, and respected chief guest, Shri Trivendra Singh Rawat ji, former Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, and today's keynote speaker, Mr. Ashok Sajnar ji, the Honorable Vice Chancellor for Doon University, Professor Sureka Dangwal ji, and all the members of the Doon University Academic Forum for combating COVID-19, the faculty members of various institutions, students, researchers, and friends. It's my privilege to be here to be talking about the role of universities and research institutions on combating COVID in India. So today I just plan to talk about what all universities and research institutions can do. Just now we heard of former Chief Minister of Uttarakhand talking about how the state of Uttarakhand, we try to manage the COVID-19 cases. And there was a question from one of the participants saying that what is the difference between 2020 and 2021? Why things have gone beyond control in 2021? And the reason is, yes, we have identified a second wave variant, which is called the Delta variant or B1.1.617.2, which is supposed to be of a serious concern according to the World Health Organization. So if you look at the global scenario as well as the national scenario, it's a matter of serious concern. And all of us are very well aware of how things are going and what we are going to do. And it's a matter of great achievement that as a country, whatever we are trying to do in fighting this COVID is something that we need to be thanking all the doctors, the medical professional people, frontline workers, the administrators, everybody as citizens in the country who can contribute in this way. So we had a first wave last year. We are going through the second wave, and others has been saying that there's a possibility of a third wave, which could affect the younger generation in the population. So Globally, as well as nationally or regionally and locally, universities and research institutions definitely have a vital role to play. The first and foremost that we as institutions and universities can do is provide reliable source of information that would be important for society. With so much of misinformation going around in the media, for us to clear all the doubts, provide a lot of information. That is where the social relevance of institutions like ours and the universities have to play. Second thing that we need to look at is we also have to see how the country is addressing the pandemic and its impact on the economic as well as health consequences. There is so much that we can do as research organizations or universities, that we can do our respective roles, maybe as academia or as research, but our contribution to be should be to the society. What is the thing that we are going to give to the society ultimately? So we need to continue our efforts with the academics and research even during this pandemic period, because the society is always looking forward to institutions like ours for solutions. So there are certain set of actions that as university campuses and institutions can do. Number one is we secure our campus. We make it as a bubble so that everybody is safe. We have students, we have faculty members, their families in campus. We have a neighborhood around the university or institution, and we are in a district and in a state. So our role goes from beginning from home to the outside. And there are several services that one can think of, that is education, research, and others. Just now, we are discussing about how education, that is conservation awareness, is going to play a major role in a state like Uttarakhand, where many people are living very far away from towns and cities. So what universities and research institutions can do? The first and foremost that we have already done is to minimize activities in our campuses and our virtual learning education so that we can continue with our activities. This is something that we are understood that the virtual learning is going to be the most important factor that we're going to go through. However, maintaining quality, evaluating ourselves, there are a lot of problems with internet and connectivity. Those issues needs to be thrashed on very quickly. Then coming to the poor students, both in schools, colleges, and in the universities at higher level, we need to try and get some scholarships or fellowships, or maybe even transform some of these for donation, so that we can support needy students, particularly in those villages who are very far away and remote. They're staying there isolated. Now they can attend classes online, or maybe and listen to the talks which are recorded and posted on the web. Research by the academia, universities, and the colleges or institutions should continue in whatever way we can. Small, medium, collaborative is definitely the key word, and we can address various issues like simple things like treatments, vaccines, innovation in whatever we have to do for the current situation, and most importantly, sharing data and knowledge and creating awareness, because correct information reaching the public at the right time is very important. So information should be accurate, it should be science-based, and it should be for both policy makers and the general public, particularly to the gram panchayats and municipalities. Because if our knowledge doesn't go and reach them, the very purpose of gaining such knowledge is going to be of no use. So in a nutshell, what I can say is that universities and research institutions can be the umbrella for various efforts with the government, with the organizations, with the people. All the activities can be carried out in this way. So there are a few ideas. Many universities have large campuses. There are many places within the campus which may be unused, or many facilities, maybe a laboratory or hostel facility may be idle right now because all the students are away. So we can allocate these unused spaces or idle facilities for the combating COVID-19 efforts. We can provide accommodation to frontline warriors, try and get medical support. Even our parking spaces can be used if we can plan a drive-through vaccination center wherein people can wait in their vehicles, get it vaccinated without getting down from the vehicle, wait in the parking lot for half an hour, and then go away. Second would be to mobilize groups inside the universities and campuses as well as outside, so that you can get donations, equipment or used equipment, funds. We can raise funds that we can use for combating COVID. And there are numerous examples that we can think of people who are even very coming from the lowest strata of the society, who came forward with their meager savings to make masks or distribute sanitizers. So these are some things that universities can definitely do. There are a lot of requirement for face shields or PPE kits, ventilators, and so on and so forth, where we can really pitch in. Now, the next group that we can think of, which would come in other activities, would be volunteers. Volunteers are the important group of people in any society who can do wonders, and particularly in a situation like this. For example, boosting morale of the medical personnel, frontline warriors, our NCC cadets, volunteers. We have many clubs in the universities, which could be eco clubs, nature clubs, or science clubs. These are the people who can step out and do certain activity without taking much risks. Some other things that we can do without exposing ourselves is operating food bank and distributing food. So it's only pick up and drop. Similarly is the case of medicines. Collate available medicines from people and then pick up and drop without getting much exposure to the pandemic virus. The other thing is to offer personalized services within your own colonies, within your own areas, by people are undergoing stress. You can have some talking with them, remove their anxiety, enlighten them about social distancing, vaccination, self-isolation, preparing posters, videos, and also provide access to service providers. Many people, even now, for example, 45-year-old people living far away cannot operate the computer system or a mobile to book their own vaccination slot. This is where students can do a major role by actually providing services like that, and also some things like pick up of medicines, vegetable, grocery, etc. that can be tried. Now coming to the research per se, globally over 870 research institutions and universities are contributing towards COVID-based research till date. And in India also, we have some institutions and universities which have published papers in the last 2 years relating to COVID-19. So a lot of research from the laboratories have now become available to public. One publication that is just a review paper on COVID-19 by Kokilabhen Dhirubhai Ambani Hospital and Medical Research Institute is the most cited paper in India, which is over 2,000 citations for one review paper. So this is the kind of activities that the research community, it's likely that it will continue for the future as well. Now, what kind of research can universities and institutions be doing? Already we have instances where most of the institutions and universities are trying to focus on the COVID-19 itself, which is the biomedicine and health issues. So the clinical trials of vaccine, quite a good scope for people to do work. So we have examples of NIMS and clinical trials are being done. ICMR is doing with the help of some universities also, that you can try and monitor people, get trials done. We need volunteers. How effective a vaccine is, such examples are already there. Then a lot of research is currently ongoing on epidemiology and spread prediction modeling. This is something that is very important right now. We are unable to understand the speed, the way it spreads and so on. Some universities and institutions have already made a start in this, like Vidyasagar University, then Presidency University in Calcutta, VIT Vellore, Armed Forces Medical College in Pune have made some steps in this. Similarly, national health programs and management of other diseases during the COVID-19 pandemic are certain things that we need to really look forward to doing. There are also impacts of COVID-19 on other areas, like for example, the economy, hospitality and tourism. States like Uttarakhand, Himachal, Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh, Sikkim, all the Himalayan states you see, they are all important destinations for tourism. Just now the former CM also spoke about it. In that case, how COVID-19 has impacted the economy, hospitality and tourism can be studied. IIM Sirmaur has made a beginning. Similarly, GGS, Indraprasth University in Delhi has made some beginning. Many universities and institutions can think about doing such research and elsewhere. Similarly, impacts of COVID-19 on the environment itself, quite a few universities are working on them. And how COVID-19 has impacted higher education itself. That is another important aspect, which IGNOU, ICR, again, VIT, Mizoram University, they all have started making research on these aspects. Finally, needless to mention, our research on biotechnology, biochemistry, nanotechnology, and related fields are going to continue. And there is enormous scope for many universities and institutions to work together in addressing these issues. I'll just highlight a few recent interesting observations made. A week ago, we came to know about this particular research by IIT Mandi, where COVID-19 comparative analysis of dark proteomes of SARS-CoV-2 of humans and bat SARS like coronavirus was done. This was a collaborative research internationally also, and they have come up with some very interesting findings. Until 1 year ago, all the models COVID-19 spread and so on and so forth were all being made outside India, even for India. Today, we are in a situation, we are modeling, picking up in our institutions. So many institutions and universities are working on model. Here is an example by IIT Kanpur, where they made the Sutra model, and I think everybody can look at it in the website. You go and put in a state or in the country, you can predict between the actual data and the computed data about how new infections are going to go out in the state. Now for Uttarakhand, between February and August, here is the prediction that by June or end of June and beginning of July, most of the infections would have gone down much lower, go towards zero. And the blue line is indicating the actual data and is very well matching with the prediction. Now, this kind of thing really helps the policymakers and the others to actually plan working on this. And this is something that we can think of in the future. It's not that only very big institutions like IITs are contributing. For example, a student from KJ Somaya College of Engineering, Maharashtra, innovated the PPE kit. It is called Cool PPE kits. It's called now CoTech, and it is a compact, frugal innovation with ventilation system. Otherwise, all of you would know how difficult it is to wear the PPE kit and work for hours together. And this particular kit, which the student had innovated, has become a big hit, and many people are now procuring this, and it has changed the way that people are now working, particularly the frontline workers and the doctors, nurses, etc. Other things that could be thought about is all the colleges and universities and the research institutions is to contribute by developing low-cost equipment that are of importance for people. For example, here our neighboring IIT Roorkee could develop this low-cost portable ventilator. So these things are changing the way that we're going to fight COVID in this country. There are other ways of also looking at how we're going through this period of confinement in our homes. IIT Gandhinagar has come up with this unique idea of a project called ISAC project. Of course, inspiration from Sir Isaac Newton. It's a very interesting thing that they talked about this. In the year 1666, I'm sorry, 1666 to 1665, 66, London went through a great plague. As a student, Isaac Newton was in Trinity College, Cambridge, and like most of us today, he was also confined to his home. But during those years, he was thinking of what we can do. Led to some of the profoundest discoveries like calculus or theory of optics, and even during this time of confinement only, you could propose these things. And I think what IIT Gandhinagar is trying to say us is that even if you are confined in your homes or in your campuses or in your villages where you're right now, You can think of how you can contribute to the society. We can get excellent hypotheses, new ideas that can actually help to improve life. Now, coming to the focus of research on only corona virus, that's COVID-19, many Indian universities and research institutions are already working. It's now time that all others who are now working in isolation to do work, but in a very organized manner, for which we need substantial. So I would suggest that we need to promote multi-dimensional research and interinstitutional collaborations to encourage groundbreaking discoveries and technological innovations. It could be a bigger IIT with a university or a college, or it could be a research institution with colleges in the neighborhood. So not one person can do everything, but together by networking and collaborating, I think certain good path-breaking discoveries and inventions can be made during this time. And just in the beginning, Vice Chancellor Madam had just suggested about how important is emerging infectious diseases. In the last Friday forum talk, Professor S.P. Singh also highlighted this. Now, diseases of wild animals, diseases in our domestic animals, and human diseases, they are all not isolated, and there's a very good link between all the three. Wild animals pass on within the system and also move on to domestic animals. Similarly, when our domestic livestock go into the wilderness areas, they transmit certain diseases. While that is one cycle that's going on between animals in the wild and animals in the domestic, we also have certain diseases that go from human to animals, either both wild as well as domestic, and vice versa. So there are various factors like even movement of animals, encroachment in the area, extension of agricultural lands, livestock grazing, contribution of technology and industry, and human use or anthropogenic pressures, development. All these have their own impacts. So whether it's a bat or it's a goat pox that has infected all the goat and sheep, and several mountain wild animals which are wild goat and sheep. So many places in Himalaya, we got reports of goat pox in the wild and in the domestic, or even other diseases that are happening. So it could be bats, it could be pangolins, or it could be smaller animals or like rodents or monkeys. So, or even carnivores. There's enough probabilities of getting emerging infectious diseases. But at the same time, this is a very new upcoming topic. Not much research has actually taken place. So I propose that all the colleges and universities and research institutions should take up work on infectious diseases of the wild animals, of the domestic animals, and the transmission processes. This can be done very easily. For example, a university with a research institution, forest department, animal husbandry department, veterinary colleges, can combine together and do their bit. We can get excellent data on disease monitoring of wild animals, domestic, and how transmissions are happening between these. A very important thing for the future. Very recently, all of you might have heard about the first case of bird infecting a human. Although this was not very potent at this stage, we don't know what is going to be the future. So I think emerging infectious diseases is going to be the biggest topic that all of us should be thinking about. And I think this could be proposed as one of the important ideas that we need to carry forward in a collaborative manner. Finally, I would like to say that opportunities are there. For example, we talked about out-migration a few years ago, but today we have people coming back to the villages from places like Delhi and Chandigarh or Gurgaon because of the COVID-19. They had come back to the villages and they are repopulating the ghost villages. This is a nice opportunity for looking at reverse migration right now going on. So trying to repopulate our villages and enabling them to survive there in their own pride and comfort, and with a very good what should I say quality of life. So The capacity building is extremely important. We have a lot of stakeholders. It could be small nagarpalikas or gram panchayats, but disaster preparedness, maybe it could be a flood or a cloud burst or landslides or a disease like this, a pandemic. I think we need to train our people to face future adverse situations. For example, you're talking about, one of the questions was about Dumak Kalgot. I have been to those villages. Yes, they are about 30 kilometers from the roadhead. Getting medical help or for that people is going to be extremely important. But making them self-reliant to prepare and face situations is one thing, and getting facilities to them is going to be the other thing. Finally, I would like to say that this pandemic has taught everybody many things. And some of the learnings that we have to take over from the pandemic is that we need to really have a relook, redesign the way that we are using our landscapes and resources. We need to judiciously use our resources, conserve natural resources. Okay, we need to use them for economic benefits. At the same time, we need to have a long-term vision for conserving them, natural resources. We need to definitely enhance local production of food security, analyze the losses of employment, livelihood, and find local solutions for sustainable livelihood of people living in the remote villages of the mountains of the Indian Himalayan region. With these words, I thank you all for your attention and thank the Dune University Forum for combating COVID, giving me a chance to interact with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your very useful and informative discussion on the topic, how to combat COVID-19, role of universities and research institutions. Thank you very much. You have highlighted that the more than 870 institutions globally are working on this particular area. Kokilaben Hospital has published a review paper, which is having more than 2,000 citations on the particular theme. You also advocated for redesign, relook, conservation of natural resources, and use of those resources for economic development, and focus on the local produce and production of local products. And you also highlighted the role of universities and institutions, how it can help to generate employment and to meet the challenges and to face the challenges being posed by COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now we have with us Honorable Ashok Sajjan Harji, former ambassador and retired IFS. And before inviting Honorable Ashok Sajjan Harji, I would like to invite Dr. Arun Kumar, a great scientist and head of Department of Chemistry, School of Physical Sciences, to introduce and to brief Honorable Ashok Sajjan Harji. Dr. Arun, please unmute.
Sir,
Yes,
I am
yes,
privileged to
yes.
introduce you and welcome you to this forum. In fact, I want to mention that we invited Sajjan sir for his lecture in a conference which was not held because of spread of COVID infection. And I requested many times. I was in touch with him in March 2021, and we were about to organize it. But in the meantime, we canceled it. So, sir, I want to introduce you. You have been a postgraduate in physics from Delhi University, and you are a career diplomat. You have served as an ambassador of India to Kazakhstan, Sweden, and Latvia. You have also worked as secretary and principal executive officer of the National Foundation for Communal Harmony. It is an autonomous organization with the Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. You have also held several significant positions in Indian embassies in Washington, Moscow, Brussels, Geneva, Bangkok, Tehran, and Dhaka. Sir, at present, you are president of Institute of Global Studies in New Delhi. You are also a distinguished fellow of Ananta Center. In addition to this, you are also member of governing bodies of various institutions. And these institutions include Indian Institute of Law and Management, Sanskriti Educational Foundation, VPM Center for International Relations, Mumbai, and many others. Sir, you joined the Indian Foreign Services in July 1978 and you retired as an ambassador of India to Sweden and Latvia in the rank of Secretary to the Government of India in July 2012. Before joining the Indian Foreign Services, you were working as a staff officer and manager in Bank of India for 3 years. Sir, you have negotiated for India in the multilateral trade negotiations and you have contributed very crucially to outcomes in several areas. You have been invited to participate as resource person and speaker in several conferences on the multilateral trading systems and Doha round of Beijing, Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, Seoul, and Geneva. As a key proponent of Indian culture, you have been the director of Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Culture in Moscow, where you have been instrumental in ushering a new paradigm in cultural diplomacy. You have held the position of Director, Indian Foreign Service Institute, New Delhi from 1992 to 1994. Sir, you have also worked as a Deputy Chief of Mission as well as Deputy Permanent Representative of India to UN ESCAPE during your assignment in Bangkok from 2000 to 2003. You have been an active negotiator in the India-Thailand Free Trade Agreement as well as India-ASEAN FTA discussions. The US-India nuclear deal was signed by our Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh and President Bush during your term in Washington in year 2005. Sir, you were the Deputy Chief of Mission to European Union, Belgium and Luxembourg from 2005 to 2007. The EU-India Strategic Partnership as well as negotiations for EU-India Bilateral Trade and Investment Agreement was launched during your tenure in Brussels. You have been decorated by the government of Kazakhstan with the Kazakh President's Medal for your invaluable contribution and in providing unprecedented impetus to bilateral ties between the two countries. You have also been decorated with the National Award by the government of Latvia for strengthening and expanding bilateral ties and friendship. You were decorated with the title of Ambassador of Peace by the Universal Peace Foundation, which is an institution in consultative status with the United Nations Organizations, New York. Sir, you are an active and prolific writer, commentator on current developments and issues pertaining to Indian foreign policy, national security, national integration, international relations. You have also been a regular speaker at conferences, seminars on various issues in India and other countries. You appear regularly as a panelist in TV debates and discussions on issues of current national and international relevance and significance. Sir, you are very fluent in English, Hindi, and Russian language. You also have a working knowledge of French and Persian. You have various other interests such as reading, music, and Indian culture. With your wife, Madhu Sajanhar, who is an economist and educationist by training and a keen painter. You have a son and daughter. Both of them are working in the field of music, who are proficient in the music. Sir, I welcome you. I extend a very warm welcome on behalf of Doon University Academic Forum for combating COVID-19, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation and managing some time to deliver your valuable talk.
Well, thank you very much, Arun, for this very generous and exhaustive and comprehensive introduction. And let me say I'm delighted to be here. Let me convey my warm wishes and best greetings to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, to the Chair of this session, Dr. Purohit, and to everyone from the Doon University. I've had the opportunity of visiting Dehradun several times in several academic engagements, but I have not had the pleasure of and the privilege of coming to the Doon University. So I'm really very happy to get this opportunity to interact, although it's on a virtual basis. with the faculty and with the students of Doon University. And as I was told, also of a large number of other universities who are participating in this program. This is an excellent initiative, Dr. Purohit, Madam Vice Chancellor Arun, that the university has taken up, because I think this we have really been kept indoors off and on for the last more than a year. And of course, as far as academic institutions are concerned, they have to continue to contribute to whatever is happening. Now, I have a suggestion to make, because we started our program at 10:30 in the morning. It's already 2 hours, and I'm sure there are many faculty here, there are many students here. I think there is a limit to the attention span that people have. We have had 2 excellent presentations by the Honorable former Chief Minister of the state, and also by Dr. Professor Satyakumar. We also had 2 excellent presentations by the Honorable Vice Chancellor and Dr. Purohit, who spoke in such detail about what is happening, what Doon University is doing. So I think we have had an excellent morning. We have learned a great deal. We have benefited a great deal. I do have, of course, my presentation for this session. And let me see if I can get it. Yes, I've got it here. I hope you can see the presentation.
Yes, sir. Visible.
Yeah. So the suggestion I have is that, it's an exhaustive presentation, and I was hoping, as Arun had told me, that I would get some time to be able to speak on it. But as per the program, I have less than half an hour to go. So what I would suggest for your consideration and the consideration of Madam Vice Chancellor, that I could make this presentation on another occasion, another opportunity, because I think it will not really be doing justice either to the presentation or to the participants, to the students and to the faculty, that I rushed through this presentation in about 15-20 minutes, because I think what is also useful and interesting is that we have a discussion, a conversation. I think, Madam Vice Chancellor, you mentioned about it that, rather than having a monologue, as far as these Friday lecture series are concerned, you would like to have an interactive session. So I would also very much prefer such an interactive session. So if it is okay with you, Madam Vice Chancellor, and the chair of this session, Professor Purohit, what I could do possibly is say a few words. The Vice Chancellor mentioned that I have a good experience and exposure on India-China relations. But that is, the biggest challenge that India faces today, India confronts today. Our biggest strategic opportunity, on the other hand, is our relations with the United States. So possibly I could speak for about 10, 15, 20 minutes on India-US relations and the general scheme of things in the world. And then for about 10, 15 minutes, we could possibly have an interaction, with questions or comments from the faculty or from the students. And I'd be very happy to respond to any of those. So if this is okay, then maybe I could continue on that basis.
Right, sir. Please continue.
Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
And as I said, I'll be very happy going forward on any other suitable occasion. I will come and I will make this detailed presentation on India in the post-COVID world.
Sure, sir.
Okay, so, let me respond to a couple of questions first that we have had. I think one of the questions that was posed to the former chief minister as to, and this, I think, question was posed by you, Arun, as to what went wrong, as to, why we were able to deal so very effectively with the first wave, but we were taken quite unawares by the second wave. और उसमें मैं तो ये कहना चाहूंगा, देखिए सब हम कहते हैं, और जो मुख्यमंत्री जी थे, पूर्व मुख्यमंत्री जी थे, उन्होंने भी कहा जो हमने कहीं पर कंप्लेसेंट हो गए, कहीं हमने अपना गार्ड वी पुट डाउन आवर गार्ड, हमें मास्किंग करनी थी वो हम करना भूल गए, हम डिस्टेंस, सेफ डिस्टेंस करना था वो हम करना भूल गए। मैं देखिए आपको एक अपना अनुभव बताता हूं, क्योंकि इसी दौरान में करीब फरवरी में मुझे मौका मिला, निमंत्रित किया गया ये मदुराई कामराज यूनिवर्सिटी में जाकर वहां पर लेक्चर देने के लिए। और मार्च के आखिर में, और अरुण आपसे बात हो रही थी तो मैंने आपको बताया भी था, मार्च के आखिर में मुझे आमंत्रित किया गया यहाँ पर एक तमिलनाडु में एक और यूनिवर्सिटी है, अलगप्पा यूनिवर्सिटी, वहां पर हम गए। वहां पर देखिए केसेस बहुत कम थे, और हम तो यहाँ से गए थे, दिल्ली से गए थे, हम तो बिल्कुल मास्क पहन कर गए, जहां भी जाते मास्क पहन कर जाते। परंतु वहां पर कोई बहुत, मैं कहूंगा 10% लोग थे वहां पर जो कि मास्क पहनते थे, और कारण उसका यही था क्योंकि वहां पर जो नंबर्स हैं वो बहुत कम हो गए थे। अब मेरा प्रश्न भी यही होगा, जो अगर आप एक जगह पर हैं, और ये काफी देश में ऐसी काफी जगहों पर देखने को मिलता था, that if you are in a place, let's say like Goa, there was no incidence at all of this. So you can't really tell the people that you have to go around wearing masks and so on and so forth, because then no one is really going to listen to you. I think the real reason, in my view, is, and I think this was alluded to some extent by Dr. Satyakumar, that we got this mutation, the variant of the virus that we got, B1617.2. This is highly infectious. And we had not really witnessed this sort of a virus anywhere else in the world. So it is virulence, it is infectivity, so that we were all taken aback. You see, our performance in the first wave, also, it is not that we were fully prepared. As the Prime Minister has said, that when this thing happened, then we were hardly preparing any personal protection equipment kits. There were no PPE kits that were being manufactured. There were no masks that were being manufactured in India, even as far as the ventilators are concerned. But very soon our condition became such that in the first wave, we were manufacturing more than 200,000 masks per day and PPE kits per day, so that within a few months, we were able to not only meet the requirements in our own country, but we were also able to export many of these items to different countries. So very quickly, we were able to ramp up our production. Also, I think it is extremely commendable that, while in the past we have always imported vaccines to meet our domestic requirements, but within a very short period of time, not only were we manufacturing a vaccine that has come from outside, that is AstraZeneca Oxford, which we are manufacturing and providing under the brand name of Covishield, but we have also been able to get one of our own vaccines, that is Covaxin by Bharat Biotech. The point here is that we were able to rise up to the occasion and the demands of these circumstances and the situation, and we were able to get these things done. But the second wave, when it came, meaning it was in February, we had about 9,000-10,000 cases per day. By the end of April and beginning of May, we had more than 414,000 cases. So you can see that it is how rapid the rise has been from February till about April or May. So the curve has been very, very rapid. And of course, we were found wanting. But then it is a measure, and this is what we are talking about, India's place in the world. It is a measure of of India's relations with the world, India's ties with the world, India's friendship with the world, that we got more than 40 countries which came very readily to support India in its hour of need. And you would recall that each and every country said the same thing, that when we needed support, India came to our aid. You would recall that in last year in March, the United States needed hydroxychloroquine and some other medicines. And although they were put under a ban because of the domestic requirements, export of that was put under a ban. But very quickly, India not only responded to the requirement, to the need of the United States, but also many other countries. Not only did we put aside the ban, but we ramped up, significantly ramped up the production of hydroxychloroquine and other items, so that during the first phase, while meeting our own requirements, we were meeting the requirements we sent out, whether it is as grant or it is as on a commercial basis. We sent out medicines and equipments to more than 150 countries. And that is why, India is known as the pharmacy of the world. Let me also mention about, I had written an article on the vaccine Maitri initiative. That has come under a great deal, this initiative of the government has come under a great deal of criticism, because government has been panned that, when we don't have vaccines for ourselves, how could you have sent vaccines out? My argument as far as this is concerned is that when we sent out the vaccines, you'd recall that we started our own vaccination program on the 16th of January this year. Our first consignment of vaccines outside went within 4 days on the 20th of January. First recipients were, if I remember correctly, it was Bhutan and it was Maldives. And the second day on the 21st, we sent 1.5 million doses to 2 million doses to Bangladesh and 1 million doses to Nepal, and so on and so forth. So these are our neighbors. These are our strategic partners. Why did we do that? That is because, number one, we were reasonably confident that we had been able to take care of the first wave. So whatever comes ahead, we will be able to take care of it. I don't think anyone in India or the world was really aware of the brutality and the savageness of the second wave and the suddenness of the second wave that when it came. But that having been said, we sent it out because there is also a particular shelf life as far as all these vaccines are concerned. And if they had been manufactured, let us say in August and September of 2020, and their shelf life is about 6 months, that means within about further 2 months, they would have expired. So it is essential and necessary that they go out and are utilized by other countries. And that, of course, went a long way in strengthening our bilateral relations with all these countries. As I said, when it went to Brazil, for instance, it was at the instance, at the invitation, at the request of the president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro. And what did he say? He said that it is, I feel, as if it is Sanjeevani being brought to Brazil by Hanuman. It is like a life-saving drug that is coming to Brazil. What did the Prime Minister of Dominican Republic say? He said that he's a Christian, Roosevelt Skerritt. He said that I've read in the Bible that if you pray with great faith, your prayers will be answered. But I didn't realize that they would be answered so very quickly. So I think this supplying vaccines around the world has had a very salutary impact on India's image and India's place in the world. And that is why you see that from the world all around, we have received so much of support when India has needed it. And this has been evident. Of course, we had the conversation between the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, and the Indian Prime Minister yesterday. But let me, since I said I'll be using this time and I've already spoken for about 15 odd minutes, maybe I'll speak for another 5 minutes and then I'll ask for questions and comments from the floor, and I'll be happy to respond to them and or discuss them in any particular way. So the first is in terms of our relations with the United States. If you look at over the last 75 odd years, ever since India got independence or after the Second World War, there have been a large number of ups and downs as far as our relations with the US are concerned. People say that both the countries share the same values, share similar values of democracy, of pluralism, of freedoms, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and so on and so forth. So it is very natural that they should have good relations. But I don't agree with that, because you see that we've had these common values, similarity in values from 47, but our relations reached absolutely the bottom point, the nadir point, in 1971. I'm sure several of you, if not all of you, remember that that was the time when the United States was colluding with China against India, was colluding with the United Kingdom against India. And it had also sent its own USS Enterprise, its own aircraft carrier in the waters of Bay of Bengal, trying to intimidate and threaten India. So that was the time when the war with Pakistan was going on for the liberation of Bangladesh. But of course, India did not get cowed down by what America was trying to do. So our relations have seen many ups and downs, but they started improving in 2000 when we had the visit of Bill Clinton to India. I will not go through the all the ups and downs after there have been no downs. In fact, after 2000, it has been an upward trajectory. But I will not go through. मैं नहीं ये बताऊंगा जो कैसे हमारे जो संबंध हैं भारत और अमेरिका के संबंध पिछले 20 साल में कैसे बिल्कुल ऊंचाई की तरफ ही चले जा रहे हैं। परंतु दो शब्द मैं उसके बारे में केवल यही कहूंगा। एक ये जो भी सरकार वहां पर रही हो अमेरिका में, चाहे रिपब्लिकन या डेमोक्रेट, जब शुरुआत हुई थी जैसे मैंने कहा तो डेमोक्रेट प्रेसिडेंट थे बिल क्लिंटन, उसके बाद जॉर्ज डब्ल्यू बुश आए 8 साल के लिए जो रिपब्लिकन थे, उसके बाद 8 साल के लिए डेमोक्रेट प्रेसिडेंट बराक ओबामा, फिर 4 साल के लिए डोनाल्ड ट्रंप। तो कोई भी सरकार रही हो इसमें व्हाइट हाउस में, वहां पर हमारे जो संबंध थे वो बिल्कुल ऊपर ही बढ़ते गए। भारत में भी अगर आप यही देखें तो यहां पर जब संबंध हमारे सुधरने शुरू हुए 2000 में, तो तब यहां पर अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी की सरकार थी। 2004 में डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह की सरकार आई। पहले बीजेपी लेड गवर्नमेंट, उसके बाद कांग्रेस लेड गवर्नमेंट 10 साल के लिए, और उसके बाद 2014 से प्रधानमंत्री मोदी की सरकार आई है। तो मैं कहूंगा चाहे अमेरिका में या भारत में कोई भी सरकार रही हो, हमारे संबंध एकदम ऊपर की तरफ ही अग्रसर होते रहे हैं। परंतु ये सोचते हुए भी मैं कहूंगा जो पिछले 7 साल में जो हमारे संबंधों में तेजी आई है, जो हमारे संबंधों में दृढ़ता आई है, जो हमारे संबंधों में डायनामिज्म आई है, वो हमने पहले नहीं देखा है। तो इसीलिए अगर हम अभी के हालात पर आए तो बहुत प्रश्न चिन्ह उठाए जा रहे थे 2016 में, जो जब डोनाल्ड ट्रंप जीते वहां पर इलेक्शन, तो क्या आगे भी चलते हुए, क्योंकि डोनाल्ड ट्रंप ने तो ना कभी कोई वो कांग्रेसमैन रहे हैं, ना वहां पर सेनेटर रहे हैं, ना गवर्नर रहे हैं, उनको गवर्नेंस का कोई तजुर्बा नहीं है, कोई एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है। तो वो जब आएंगे तो उनके साथ हमारे संबंध कैसे होंगे। और ये बड़ी खुशी की बात है जो 4 साल जो उन्होंने गुजारे, तो हमारे संबंध जो एक स्तर पर थे, बहुत ऊंचाई स्तर पर पहुंच गए थे बराक ओबामा के समय में भी, तो उसके आगे 4 साल में भी वो बहुत आगे पहुंच गए। अब इसके बाद जब जो बाइडेन अपनी इलेक्शन जीते पिछले साल नवंबर में, तो बहुत प्रश्न चिन्ह तब भी उठने लगे। जो एक बारी जब ह्यूस्टन में प्रधानमंत्री मोदी गए थे, और वो था सितंबर 2019 में जब वो गए थे वहां पर, और हाउडी ह्यूस्टन एक प्रोग्राम हुआ था, और उन्होंने, प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने कहा था, जो पिछली बार जब राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप अपना इलेक्शन प्रचार कर रहे थे, तो तब उन्होंने प्रयोग किया था एक ये फ्रेज, एक ये कॉल किया था उन्होंने, अब की बार ट्रंप सरकार, वो 2016 में उन्होंने कहा था। तो इसको लेकर प्रधानमंत्री मोदी की बहुत आलोचना की गई, जो ये डोनाल्ड ट्रंप की हिमायत कर रहे हैं, इनको सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। तो इसीलिए अब जब जो बाइडेन आए हैं तो इनके साथ संबंध अच्छे नहीं होंगे। परंतु हमने देखा है, जब से जो बाइडेन आए हैं, तो पहले जैसे ही इलेक्शन रिजल्ट डिक्लेयर हुआ, दोनों नेताओं के बीच में बातचीत हुई, बड़ी अच्छी बातचीत हुई, और कैसे संबंधों को और आगे ले जाएंगे वो भी बातचीत हुई। जब 21 जनवरी को राष्ट्रपति बाइडेन ने अपनी शपथ ग्रहण की, उसके तुरंत ही बाद 15 दिनों में उन्होंने प्रधानमंत्री मोदी से दोबारा बात की। और उसके बाद अगर हम देखें, अब मैं कहूंगा, जो पहले तो हमारे केवल मूल्य, देयर वाज अ कन्वर्जेंस ऑफ वैल्यूज, टुडे देयर इज आल्सो अ कन्वर्जेंस ऑफ इंटरेस्ट। और इंटरेस्ट उसमें क्या है, अगर मैं भारत के बारे में बोलूं, तो हमारा सबसे बड़ा जो इंटरेस्ट है अभी है, जो हम कैसे एक प्रगतिशील देश बन सकते हैं, हम कैसे, हाउ इज इट दैट वी कैन गेट मोर इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट, how is it that we can improve the living conditions of our people, of our population? What do we need for that? We need technology, we need capital, we need support, and all that is we will be able to get from the United States. What is the second, in terms of strategic interest, what is our need? I think the second is in terms of the muscle flexing and the aggressiveness that we experience as far as China is concerned. And there also we can collaborate with the United States. Now, many of you would recall that in 2017, we took the initiative of what is known as the Indo-Pacific. Indo-Pacific is an initiative, it is a structure which looks upon the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean as one continuum. And we also set up this other multilateral or intergovernmental institution called the Quad. The Quad has membership of United States, India, Japan, and Australia. And it has many other components, which when I speak in future, I will speak about those. But right now, one of the important elements is to push back against China, increasing muscle flexing, increasing aggressiveness and assertiveness of China. We have experienced it ourselves in 2020, when it'll be a year in another 10 days' time, when India lost 20 of its brave soldiers in Galwan Valley because of the aggression of China. But it is not only against India. It is also in the South China Sea. I have an image of that and I will show that to you. This is the South China Sea that we can see. And here, this is an area through which more than 50% of global trade and traffic flows. But 90%, you can see this line, 90% of this is claimed by China as its own territory. Of course, this has been completely rejected by the international judicial authorities. But as we know, China does not go by international law. So we have not only on our own borders, but in the South China Sea, against Taiwan, against Japan, China has been muscle flexing. So both of us, both India and the United States, have similar similar interests, and that is why both of them are collaborating. The last point I'll make here is, and then I will have the floor open for some questions or comments. The last is that the first summit meeting of the Quad countries took place in March this year, and they agreed that they will cooperate in manufacturing of vaccines, in emerging technologies, and also in critical minerals and elements. So there is a big program of collaboration as far as Quad countries are concerned. They will continue to work with each other and expand the scope of their cooperation, and also include other countries into it. Other countries like Indonesia, like possibly Vietnam, like Korea, like the United Kingdom. And the last comment here I will make is that the cooperation in the G7 meeting of 7 countries which come together. They have been meeting. These are industrialized countries. These are developed countries: US, Canada, Britain, France, Italy, Germany, and Japan. They have been meeting, and now India has also been invited to participate in this meeting. And there are also discussions that this should expand into a D10, which means the 10 democratic countries. How can they come together, having similar values and having similar problems and difficulties as far as the authoritarian and the autocratic rise of China is concerned? So let me stop here. I think the possibilities of collaboration between India and the United States are excellent, because both the countries have similar values and similar interests. And also this needs to further expand so that the challenges that the world faces, one is the health challenge due to the coronavirus pandemic, the economic challenge because of the damage and destruction of the economies of all countries that has taken place, to deal with the challenge of climate change, to deal with the challenge of Chinese growth and aggression. So all these countries can come together and deal with these challenges. So let me stop here, and let me now throw the floor open. If there are any questions, I would be happy to respond to those or listen to any of the comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your detailed presentation and discussion on the topic. We have questions on our from the side of the participants in our chat box. Professor Pushum Arunachalam, Madam. Madam is asking, sir, just in the beginning of the year, India was sending the vaccines to the rest of the world, and now we are looking towards other nations to supply vaccines to us. What really went wrong?
Okay, what went wrong, as I have mentioned is, let me first of all say that this shortage of vaccines in India, in my view, is purely temporary. And we will see, and I think this was also mentioned by the Honorable former Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, that by the end of this month or July, but definitely August, we will be able to see that this shortage of vaccines comes down. There is what we had thought is that we would be able to take this vaccination program in a phased manner. We had never expected that, as I mentioned, that the second wave would be so virulent. And the virulence, in my view, is not only, there might have been a contribution, after all, we are in a university setting, there might have been a contribution of 10%, 15% because of complacency, because of lack of masking. But really about 80% of the cause of the virulence of the virus is because of the new strain, because of the new mutation. And that is why we had to supply, we had to send out the vaccines, because they had a particular shelf life. Also because, you know, when we are expecting that we will get components and raw materials and inputs from other countries, then we are also duty bound to be able to supply the finished products to them. And the third point is that India is, you know, not only pharmacy, but also the vaccine pharmacy of the world. You would have seen recently, just about 2 days ago, that there was this statement from the WHO that the fact that India is not supplying vaccines to the rest of the world will have a significant adverse impact on the health conditions of 91 countries. But at this moment, whatever we need to do, whatever additional supplies, you know, because if, as the government has said, we will be able to get about more than 2 billion vaccine doses by the end of the year, which means more than 200 crore vaccine doses, which we'll be able to administer. We have to further ramp up our production by the Serum Institute of India, that is of Covishield, of Bharat Biotech, and of Sputnik V. And we will get other vaccines also, whether it is Pfizer, whether it is Moderna. We will start manufacturing those also in India. All of you must be aware that India and South Africa have taken a proposal to the WTO TRIPS Council saying that there should be a temporary waiver of 3 years as far as the intellectual property rights of these vaccines are concerned. Let us see how quickly we can get there. And so I think that there is going to be a ramp up in production, and very soon we will be through with these shortages. The last point I'll make here is that when the meeting of the Quad leaders took place, of the Quad, the summit meeting with President Biden, Prime Minister Modi, Prime Minister Suga of Japan, and Prime Minister Scott Morrison of Australia on the 12th of March this year, then there was a decision also taken which said that United States and Japan will provide the funding and will provide the technology for manufacture of 1 billion doses of vaccines by India. We will ramp up the capacity, we will ramp up our production facility, and those $1 billion, 1 billion doses will be provided to the Indo-Pacific countries. So I think India is working in very many different streams, and all these vaccines will start coming to India also very quickly. You know that yesterday when Vice President Kamala Harris spoke to Prime Minister Modi, she spoke about whatever vaccines will be provided. But I don't want to get into that because I think that number is going to be very minimal. As far as India's size is concerned, we need about 10 million doses per day to be able to vaccinate. At the moment, we are vaccinating at the rate of about 2 to 3 million doses per day. That has to be significantly ramped up. And I'm quite confident that very soon we will be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Another question we have from Rajesh and Prashant. Rajesh is asking, it could be a biological weapon by China. And second question of Rajesh is, why United Nations failed to manage COVID? And similar question from Prashant, that natural virus cannot be so virulent in such a short span of time. So these two questions from two.
Yeah, I fully subscribe to the points that that have been made. You see, right at the beginning, when this whole thing started, And I would say it started really on 17th November 2019, although now there is evidence coming that even in October 2019, there were some scientists from the Wuhan Institute of Virology which had come down with similar pneumonia-like symptoms. So it is possible that it would have been there. Earlier, and why has China been so very aggressive and so very hostile to any suggestion that, this virus came from China? Because, if its hands were clean, if it had nothing to hide, it should have welcomed all these teams coming from outside. When Australia suggested that there should be an investigation of the origin of the virus, China flew into an apoplectic rage. And you remember, some of you would remember, that it equated Australia even to like a used chewing gum stuck on the bottom of your sole of your shoe, and it has to be removed from there. It used such totally undiplomatic and unparliamentary language by what are known its wolf warrior diplomats. So I think last year it tried its very best to say that either it had come from the wet market of Wuhan, or it had come from the frozen food that was coming from Australia, frozen chicken that was coming from Australia, or that it had come from Italy. You would recall that in the last few days also, it has again, WHO has asked Italy to get further investigations done on that. But now there is increasing evidence to suggest, some of you would recall that there was Professor Li Mengyan from Hong Kong. She had done investigation on this, and she had said that, the amino acids occurring in the coronavirus, they do not suggest as if they have come from a natural source. They definitely have come from an artificial source, that there is an artificial protein that has been, the virus has been spliced open, and an artificial protein has been introduced on it. There is also reports that from 2015 onwards, there was research that was being conducted in China, in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, to create a bioweapon. So there are all these theories, and you would have seen just about 7 days ago, there is a decision by the US President, Joe Biden, that he has instructed his intelligence agencies to go and investigate further and see whether it was an accidental leak from the laboratory, or it was an intentional leak out of the laboratory. So I think we'll have to wait for some more time. But this is clear that, there is a big likelihood that it could have come out of a laboratory, out of the Wuhan Institute of Laboratory, because there is, and I don't want to go into all that circumstantial evidence that has been building up. There are two scientists from the United Kingdom, Professor Dalglish and a Norwegian scientist, Sorensen, who have just published a report. And they said that they wanted to bring out this report last year, but they were not allowed to. It could not get published. This was the sort of control that China has also on the academia and other aspects that are happening. So that having been said, I think there is definitely growing evidence, growing concern, and growing clamor for a full, detailed, open, transparent, impartial investigation into the origin of the virus. It will be useful not only to tell us as to how did the virus come so that we can deal with the virus effectively, but this coronavirus COVID-19, but also for any future pandemics. Dr. Satyakumar was talking about these other, traveling from the poultry birds to human beings and all. So we have to be ready for future such diseases, which would be infectious diseases. But China has been resisting all this, so we'll have to wait and see. Now, the second question was, why is it that the world was not able to deal with it? Because I think multilateralism has been at under Mr. Trump, because he was focused more on unilateralism. The WHO was seen to be complicit with China. It was seen to have compromised its own independence. So there are a number of reasons, but definitely multilateralism has not been working. And this is what our Prime Minister has also said, that the institutions that were created 75 years ago, when the situation of the world was very different from the realities on the ground today. So it is the same institutions like the UN Security Council, etc., which are working, and they need to change. Then only can multilateral systems really work effectively. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So Dr. Ajit Kumar is asking that second wave, India suffered a lot in comparison to our neighboring countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, etc.
And you want to know the reason why?
Yes, sir.
Okay, meaning I didn't want to enter into this domain because, if we are talking, that it is not a naturally occurring virus. If we are talking that it is a man-made virus, then, and people are speaking, most of the people around say that we became very complacent, we were not wearing masks, we were not maintaining the distance. So my counter question to this is that, were the people in our neighboring countries really so steadfast in wearing masks and following all the appropriate COVID behavior? Meaning, what about those huge demonstrations and movements, by PDM, Pakistan Democratic Movement, who were having all these protests and demonstrations in all the big cities, whether it is Peshawar, it is Karachi, it is Lahore, it is all the other places. Meaning, were they maintaining the appropriate COVID behavior? No, they were not. Similarly, what is happening as far as Myanmar is concerned, after February 1st, you have seen that there is martial law that has been imposed there. There have been all these demonstrations that have been taking place, but that has not had an impact. Similarly, in Bangladesh also, there have been so many protests and demonstrations against Chinese increasing influence and Chinese increasing investments in Bangladesh, but nothing seems to have happened there. This gives rise to the fact, and I don't want to speculate too much on this, that if it is a human engineered, a retro-engineered virus, then why is it that these instances and these incidents of increased virulence and increased infectivity taking place in countries which do not have good relations with China? It is happening in India, it's happening in Taiwan, it's happening in Japan, it's happening in Vietnam, in all these countries which do not seem to have good relations with China. So I think we really need to do much more investigation, much more investigative studies and analysis to really come to a full final conclusion or robust conclusion which will withstand the arguments of science and not be only on speculation. What I have mentioned it is only sort of, you can have a presumption, have a speculation, but I think these are strong arguments that that take place, and going forward we really will have to investigate them in a fuller manner than we have been able to do so far.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We have last question from Professor K.D. Purohit. He wants to know about the theory that the third wave will have more impact on if it will affect the younger generation, especially children's. And then after KD Purohit's question, we have Professor Doval. Professor Doval is a visiting professor of media studies with Doon University for last 5-7 years. So before joining Doon University, he worked with PTI and different media organizations in India and abroad. So he is also having expertise in international relations. So then I would like to invite Professor Doval to have his question with Honorable Ashok Kumar Sajjan Harsa, and he will also propose vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing committee. Sir, Professor KD Purohit regarding the third wave, especially effect on the young generation and children.
Okay, I think one of the reasons why this is being mentioned is because earlier we were more or less certain that the younger population would not be very adversely impacted upon by this because they would not have so many comorbidities. They are much healthier. They are much more active. Their immune systems would be much stronger. Their resilience to any illness or any disease would be much greater. So they would be able to withstand, even if they get infected, their internal system would be robust to be able to fight and fend off this virus. And this is what we experienced, let us say, in the first year. In the first phase, we saw that people who had comorbidities, who were senior citizens, etc., they were the ones who were getting most affected. Now, in the second wave, we have seen that even the younger people have got affected. Again, let us do some more scientific study and analysis. So my own hunch is that if you were to take the proportion of, what is the fatality rate of people, let us say, up to 25 years of age or even up to 44 years of age, the percentage would be still comparatively much smaller than those who have been affected or who have, it has proved fatal for them above 45 years of age. But since the overall number has increased, as I told you, in February, we were going around 9,000 to 10,000 cases per day. Suddenly on 7th of May, we had 414,000. So even here, if 1% were to be taken in February, it would be a particular X. But if we were to take the same 1% for 412, that would be 40 times X. And so, it appears that the numbers are much larger. But another reason for that, which I can foresee, is that you have many of the people above 60 years, they have got both the doses. As far as 45 to 60, also many people have got their doses. So although it is not a foolproof protection against the virus, but in terms of the intensity and in terms of what is the impact that it can have on you, that is considerably reduced. While you see that from 18 to 44 and from 12 to 18, of course, there is no vaccination as yet. Only now Pfizer has said that its vaccine is appropriate, and some of the others also, Covaxin is also doing its trials. Some of the others, J&J is also doing its trials. So maybe we will start getting more vaccines in the 18 minus category. But so far, the 18 minus category is totally unprotected and vulnerable. That is why I think the doctors feel that they are most at risk. And also between 18 to 44, the number of vaccines, the number of people who have got vaccinated, that is not very significant, not very large. But as I said, this will start improving. And the last point here also is, I would like to make is that India is a young country. So much of our population is, as we say, we have this huge demographic advantage. More than 65% of our population is below 35 years. So if 65% is below 35 years and very few of them have been vaccinated, then obviously if we have the third wave, which is of a similar virulence as the last one, as the second wave that we are going through, then it is going to have a much bigger impact on the younger people, because the older people have by and large been or have already been vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is Harsh Dobal. I was in the queue for asking questions. I had 2-3 of them. I will put them in front of you and you can maybe answer one or two. One is that, given the dynamics and relationships between US and China, sort of hostility and the competition of a sort, on the one hand, and of course, India and China, you've already, detailed, you've already presented a lot of details with regard to the dynamics between India and China. Do you see any opportunity for India opening up in terms of its influence at global level? And also with regard
last sentence, please. Do I see
any opportunity for India opening up for having a greater role at world level and also in terms of US-India relationships?
Yeah. So this is the question. Excellent question.
One more question, because I'll just ask that one go and then you can. You rightly said that multilateralism under Donald Trump was undermined, grossly undermined in favor of unilateralism by the US, and under Trump the country came to be aspiring more and more of a reigning hegemon in the world politics. Do you see this multilateralism gaining some strength under Biden now? And my third and last question is that, though you've already dealt with it, but nevertheless, we know that, as you said, we gave vaccines to more than 40 countries, more than 40 countries helped India, and we supplied vaccine to many other countries. And you've rightly, tried to highlight and project it as India's strength. But how justified is the argument that India could not fulfill its domestic demand? And as you rightly said, that India is the vaccine pharmacy of the world. So it could not fulfill its domestic demands while aspiring to be a global player.
Okay, let me go, from the third to the second and the first.
Yes, sir.
And the first, maybe you will have to remind me again. But as far as the third question is concerned, I think when India was supplying these vaccines to around the world, and it has supplied to more than 80 countries, and it has supplied 66 million, 60 plus million vaccine doses to these countries. Let me tell you, let me remind you that there was a huge vaccine hesitancy in the country. Even those people who are today saying that, why did you send our vaccines of my children out and there are no vaccines? These were the same people who were saying that, this is Modi vaccine, this is BJP vaccine, you should not take these vaccine. They were raising questions. I'm sure you are in media, you would remember they were raising questions that the Bharat Biotech thing had not gone through phase 3 trials. So you are putting the lives of our people at risk. So people should not go in for the Covaxin jab. And that is why you would recall that on the 1st of March, early morning 6:30, Prime Minister Modi went to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences and got his vaccine jab of Covaxin, basically to infuse confidence amongst the people. The doctors, you would have seen, whether it is Dr. Guleria, Dr. Trehan, Dr. Sareen, everyone coming on to the TV, on TV channels and saying, I have taken the jab today, I'm feeling perfectly fine, no cause for vaccine hesitancy. I can give you my example. When I went on the first day, we walked in, there were no crowds at all. I went for my second dose on the 16th of April, which is after 6 weeks. I walked in and I was out in 5 minutes. You see, the point is that when you are talking about, when I'm sending out vaccines, and as I said, there is a shelf life of the vaccines. There was no demand. You had to coax, you had to cajole, you had to persuade people to please come, take your jabs. There were no takers. It is only now when, there has been, and I accept that there is a shortage of vaccines, but I think you need to recognize it's a temporary shortage. And this is, I think by July, definitely by August, we are going to have more than adequate supplies. And again, there is going to be, people will be waiting for giving vaccine jabs, and there are going to be no takers. You please mark my words. So I think let us not get into politics of one nature or the other. I think it is in the nature of politicians that they will continue to do politics either way. When there are vaccines, they say these vaccines are not good enough. When there are no vaccines, they will say, where have you sent my children's vaccines? So, let's not go into that. Let's look at facts. And I've tried to present the facts to you. The second point is you mentioned about multilateralism. And there I would say that, yes, you would recall that the first visit of President Joe Biden to the State Department, to the US State Department, if I remember correctly, it was on the 5th of February, and he sort of, spoke to Antony Blinken, and he said, America is back. American leadership is back. Multilateralism is back. And you can see that this is, because what did Donald Trump do? He completely destroyed all alliances of the United States. His relations with all the alliance partners, Japan, South Korea, he would tell them that you pay for the support, for the military support, for our troops that are there. You have to pay for that. His relations with Angela Merkel, his relations with Justin Trudeau, with Scott Morrison, they had really dipped to the lowest point. Relations with NATO were completely sort of, destroyed. And when Biden has come, he has tried to shore up all these relations. He has, and his first visit out is going to be for the G7 summit next month on the 10th and 11th, this month, 10th and 11th of June in UK. And this is also going to be a G7 plus 3, in which 3 other major countries, that is India, Australia, and Korea, Republic of Korea, are going to be invited. So I think multilateralism is definitely back. Joe Biden speaks with courtesy, with respect to the alliance partners. His first phone calls, both after he got elected and after he was sworn in on the 21st of January, were to his alliance partners and to India. So I think definitely that his the first summit meeting of the Quad countries took place after Biden assumed office. So I definitely think that that these alliances and these partnerships are going to play a much bigger role in terms of determining the geopolitics of the region and of the world. And your first question was, you please jog my memory. I seem to have forgotten that. Hello?
Sorry. Yeah, my first question was with regard to the dynamics between China and US and India and China.
Yes, yes.
If that
and
is
whether India has an
opportunity.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, definitely. And you see, because now it is much more of a multipolar world. You see, initially from 1991 till about 2001, it was a unipolar world. Now, China is trying to make it once again into a bipolar world as it existed during the Cold War. But I don't think that the world is prepared to accept the leadership of China. That is why you would have seen that the Chinese President Xi Jinping, 2 days ago, he said that the Chinese diplomats and the Chinese media should try to present China in a more lovable way, in a more gentle and humble way, because the pushback against China is huge. You see it around the world, although countries are not willing to speak out against China, because China is also a very big economic power. And most of these countries have very strong economic relations, but still they are not happy with what China is doing. You have seen 2 days ago how its aircraft went and violated the airspace even of Malaysia. Earlier it has been Vietnam, earlier it has been Philippines. So definitely, as far as India is concerned, it has an opportunity in this increasingly multipolar world, and India is trying to make, take the maximum benefit and advantage. Even before that, India was doing it. And I'll stop with that because I know it's 1:30 and every one of you must be really waiting for your lunch. And if not you, I'm sure your families would be waiting to get you onto the dining table, because all of us are at home. So I don't want to spend more time on this, but just to say, if you see in 2019, the meeting took place of G20 in Osaka in June of, Prime Minister Modi had a meeting with President Donald Trump and President Shinzo Abe. At that time, the Prime Minister was Shinzo Abe and President was Donald Trump. They had the meeting of these three leaders, and it was called, by Mr. Modi, it was called JAI. And he also had a meeting of RIC, Russia, India, China, RIC countries. He was the only leader who was able to straddle across both these geographies, or both these instrumentalities. Also, if you remember, in 2018, 31st October 2018, when the G20 meeting took place in Buenos Aires in Argentina, there also JAI meeting took place, JAI, and RIC meeting took place. So India has been able to have good, productive, useful, fruitful relations with a large number of countries to expand its influence and to expand, whatever in terms of get benefits and advantages from these relations across territories. So India is a member of SCO, India is a member of BRICS, India is also invited to G7. So I think across this, India has that possibility, and it is using it to the fullest advantage. Thank you.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Probably this may be the last question, sir. Sir, in 2008, चाइना में गेम्स हुए थे, तो हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर को इनवाइट नहीं किया गया था. Our प्राइम मिनिस्टर वाज इग्नोर्ड. सो सर, तब से और अभी तक कुछ चेंज आया है सर?
देखिए, आपका प्रश्न बड़ा अच्छा है, क्योंकि उस समय प्रधानमंत्री जी को निमंत्रण नहीं आया था, परंतु सोनिया गांधी और राहुल गांधी को निमंत्रण आया था. मैं उस समय था, एम्बेसडर था कजाकिस्तान में. मैं बड़ी अच्छी तरह वहां पर मैं ऑब्जर्व करता था और देखता था. और उसी समय आपको याद होगा, जो एक समझौता भी के ऊपर भी दस्तखत किए गए थे कांग्रेस पार्टी और चाइनीज कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी के बीच में. और उस समय शी जिनपिंग, जो आजकल के राष्ट्रपति हैं, वो उस समय उपराष्ट्रपति थे. तो ये समझौता जो दस्तखत हुआ था, ये राहुल गांधी जी के और जो उनके काउंटर पार्ट है वहां पर चाइनीज कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी के, उनके बीच में दस्तखत हुआ था. और पीछे आप देख सकते हैं उस तस्वीर, क्योंकि तस्वीर, आई एम श्योर इट्स अवेलेबल ऑन गूगल, एनीवन इज इंटरेस्टेड, यू वुड बी एबल टू सी इट. सोनिया गांधी जी खड़ी हुई हैं और शी जिनपिंग भी खड़े हुए हैं. बट आई डोंट वांट टू गेट इनटू दैट, बिकॉज आई थिंक चाइना रिकॉग्नाइजेस जो वेयर इज द सीट ऑफ पावर. और उस समय उन्होंने ये निर्णय किया, द सीट ऑफ पावर इज इन द हेड ऑफ द नेशनल जो भी अलायंस था उस समय, सोनिया गांधी को, तो उन्होंने निमंत्रण दिया. यहां पर जो बात हुई है अभी, जो मैं कहूंगा, देखिए, 2 बारी उन्होंने प्रयास किया है. लेट मी गिव यू वन मोर एग्जांपल. जब 2013 में चीन के प्रधानमंत्री थे ली केशियांग, अभी भी हैं, वो पहली मर्तबा भारत आए, तो उस समय चाइनीज फोर्सेस ने इंट्रूड किया देप्सांग में. तो तब जो हमारे विदेश मंत्री थे सलमान खुर्शीद, वो गए वहां पर चीन में, और उन्होंने कहा, जो ये जो किस्सा हुआ है, it is like an acne, है जैसे मुहासा on the beautiful face of India-China relations. तो उन्होंने बिल्कुल इसको जिसे एकदम ये प्रयास किया that it is not important. परंतु ऐसा ही जब एक और हादसा हुआ 2017 में डोकलाम में, और वो भारत की जमीन नहीं थी, परंतु भारत के स्ट्रेटेजिक सिक्योरिटी इंटरेस्ट को बहुत एडवर्सली इंपैक्ट कर सकती थी, तो देन इंडिया मूव्ड इन टू डोकलाम, एंड आफ्टर अ 73-day face off, China was forced to withdraw on the 28th of August. ये 16 जून को शुरू हुआ 2017 में, और 28 अगस्त को they had to withdraw. China had to withdraw from there, and both had to mutually withdraw. And I think this was seen as a huge humiliation by China, जो हमारे और उनके जो सोशल मीडिया में है, इसके विरुद्ध बहुत टिप्पणी की गई थी, जो कैसे भारत क्या हमसे ज्यादा ताकतवर देश बनकर उभर आया है, जो हमको विड्रॉ करना पड़ा। उसके कारण अलग थे, मेरे पास समय नहीं है, मैं नहीं उसमें जाऊंगा। उसके बाद उन्होंने प्रयास किया उसका बदला लेने के लिए, टू टेक रिवेंज फॉर दैट। दे ट्राइड व्हाट दे डिड लास्ट ईयर इन गलवान एंड इन लद्दाख, और उसमें भी उनको मुंह की खानी पड़ी। वहां पर गलवान में आपको पता है हमारे तो 20 सैनिक शहीद हुए, परंतु उन्होंने अपना नहीं बताया है जो अभी तक जो कितने हुए। वहां पर उनकी वाइबो में, जो कि उनका ट्विटर है, उसके ऊपर कुछ नंबर्स आए हैं। टास जो रूस की न्यूज एजेंसी है, उन्होंने कहा 65 लोग उनके मारे गए, जो 45 लोग, सॉरी 45 लोग। और जो अमेरिकन इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसीज हैं, उन्होंने कहा जो उनके करीब या 60 से ऊपर या 100 से ऊपर उनके सैनिक हताहत हुए उसमें। तो इसीलिए ये वाला भी उन्होंने सोचा था जो वी विल डू आवर मसल फ्लेक्सिंग। अभी तक चीन का क्या व्हाट इज इट बीन इट्स मोडस ऑपरेंडी, दे विल फ्लेक्स देयर मसल्स, और जो उनके विरुद्ध है दे विल कैरी आउट व्हाट इज कॉल्ड एन इंफॉर्मेशन वॉरफेयर, इंफोडायनामिक्स, जो हम बताएंगे हमारे पास कितना दम है, कितना जोर है, हम कितने आपके ऊपर आकर एकदम हावी हो जाएंगे, और जो वो आपके विरुद्ध है वो एकदम अपने हथियार डाल देगा। यही हुआ है वियतनाम में, यही हुआ है फिलीपींस में। उन्होंने सोचा था भारत भी ऐसे ही करेगा, क्योंकि अभी भारत जूझ रहा था कोविड-19 से, पूरी तरीके से लॉकडाउन था। आप याद रखिए जून का महीना जब था, उस क्वार्टर में हमारी जो जीडीपी है इट वेंट डाउन बाय -23.9%। आप याद करिए 24 मार्च को ये लॉकडाउन चला और फिर 2 महीने तक चलता रहा, 68 days फुल लॉकडाउन ऑफ द कंट्री, -23.9 जीडीपी ऑफ द कंट्री। और उन्होंने सोचा भारत तो हमारे विरुद्ध खड़ा नहीं हो पाएगा। भारत न केवल खड़ा हुआ, हमने 50,000 वहां पर अपनी सेना तैनात की, टैंक्स ले गए, एयरक्राफ्ट ले गए, राफेल जेट्स ले गए, और 27-28 अगस्त की रात को वहां पर जो कैलाश रेंज है, चाहे वो हेलमेट टॉप हो, चाहे वो ब्लैक टॉप हो, सारे रेंजेस पर हमने जाकर वो अपना कब्जा कर लिया। So this came as a huge shock and a huge surprise, and I think this has also really been a big morale booster as far as India is concerned, but also a big humiliation and insult for China. So आपका प्रश्न था अरुण, जो क्या बदला है, तो मैंने आपको बताने का प्रयास किया है क्या बदला है 2008 में और 2020-21 में। धन्यवाद।
Right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Harish Purohit, for giving me this opportunity to make present formal vote of thanks. First of all, thank you, sir, Ambassador Ashok Sajjanharji. It has been a great pleasure. First of all, I think it is because of the diplomats, as a large country, largest democracy, and a very important economy with a lot of potential, and with the potential to impact, to have an impact on the future course of global developments, global dynamics. Also today, instilling a sense of confidence in us. Many of us are not students of international politics, and we do not have international relations or politics as a program in our university. Nevertheless, you have made us look at India during these tough, difficult times with a renewed and deep sense of a lot of hope, stronger sense of confidence, and sheer optimism about India's future role. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of the university, it was a delight to listen to you. It was sort of a primer, though not very structured today. As you rightly said, you presented more in terms of responses to questions, but we do look forward to a detailed presentation that you have, and I'm sure a lot of us will benefit. And as I'm telling you, it is more like a primer for us, sort of a window into understanding India's position and global dynamics in foreign policy. Thank you very much, sir, for taking time off from a very, very busy schedule. We know. Thanks a lot, sir. I think, yeah, former Chief Minister Sri Trivendra Singh Rawatji is not with us now. He had to leave. I think he was very kind to take time out from his very, very busy schedule. He gave a very detailed account of government's initiatives with regard to COVID-19 and sort of determination to fight COVID-19. Our deep thanks to former Chief Minister Sri Trivendra Singh Rawatji, who also, of course, has in no uncertain terms explained and reflected his love for this university, his commitment for this university. So I take this opportunity to thank Sri Rawat for his kind words also about our university. Our Vice Chancellor, Professor Surekha Dangwal, set the tone very early in the morning at the outset for a very, very exciting session today. We had been doing these Friday lecture series, but Madam has, given it a fresh lease of life. All of us feel more excited and more committed to continue these interactions, which are very fruitful and which should be held in any academic institution. Thank you very much, Madam, for giving your time and for encouraging us to continue this effort and for leading this team. Dr. Arun Kumar, is from a science background, but he's also a multifaceted personality. He's the main convener and main force behind this renewed Friday series. Thank you, Dr. Arun Kumar, for taking a man of Ambassador Sajjan Har's repute and no importance to us and making him available for us. So thank you, Dr. Arun Kumar. Our team, Dr. Rajesh Bhatt, Dr. Naresh Mishra, they've been very active. Thank you, Dr. Bhatt and Dr. Mishra. Dr. M.S. Mandrawal, our registrar, our deputy registrar, Mr. Narendra Lal, Mr. Saket Unyal, who has been here since early in the morning, along with his team member, Mr. Nandan. Thank you very much, sirs, for giving time and supporting this event, and for being here all the times. Dr. Satya Kumar, I'm sorry, I sort of missed him. His name should have come first. Dr. Satya Kumar has actually sort of shaken us out of our slumber and made us realize that universities, have the potential. So thank you, Dr. Satya Kumar, for making us feel that and making us think very seriously about our potential and force us to explore the possible role of the university that we can play in terms of various examples that you gave, including highlighting various possible research areas. Last but not the least, Professor H.C. Purohit is a sort of a beacon light of all these kind of events. He's the one who so smoothly conducts these sessions. So thank you, Professor Purohit, for being there today, as always. Thank you, everybody. It is time for lunch. I think we have sort of overshot the time. We meet again next Friday. And I would again request Ambassador Sajjan Har that, that you have to give us time in future as promised, and Dr. Arun will follow up with you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Well, last comment, if I may, meaning I don't want to take away from what you have said, but, let me say what a great pleasure it has been for me also to interact with the students. I know that the time was limited because I would have, what Arun had told me, sir, please take whatever time, speak for 1 hour. And I said, no, the attention span of the students, I've been on this side of the table, so I know it is not so much. But I think we had a good conversation. And I would like to, personally express my deep appreciation and gratitude for this opportunity. As I said, Dehradun is well known, but Doon University, this is my first introduction. So thank you, and thank you, Madam Professor Surekha Dangwal, the Vice Chancellor. I can see you on the screen, so I am truly thankful that you have, both for your initiative as well as for your time. I'm deeply impressed with the remarkable work you are doing, and I wish you all the very best. Good health in these times, the most important thing, and happiness and success. And as I said, for me, it will be a great pleasure at a suitable opportunity to come again and interact. My presentation, you could see only the first slide where I have the map of India, but I have a full presentation, and I thought it would give you a tour d'horizon of what India is as far as the world is concerned, and what India needs to do domestically to occupy again. And wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.